Oh, for fuck's sake, I've fucking had it. So it's time for a major counter narrative to all the bullshit that's on the web, and the crap that has gone through this corner of the clogosphere, which, is a term that I'm coining for, the bullshit, misinformation, spam, all that crap that goes through the internet and everything. But this is a graph that I found at a page that, despite not sharing the politics of the person who administers it, I do have to give a limited endorsement to, what he said in this article, or the author of this piece said in this article, who I don't exactly know uh, who wrote it precisely. I don't know who the character behind it ultimately is, but, you know, it really was an eye opener for me, and that they said opponents of GM vaccines and GM genetically modified foods often promote organics and alternative medicine because you can't trust big pharma. They only care about profits. And it got me that the market for alternative medicine and organic food was actually larger than, you know, the market for vaccines, which led to me writing this. Big placebo makes more money than vaccine research ever will. If it were true that doctors who work in the vaccine research in the vaccine research field were motivated solely by greed, then they are in the wrong profession. There's far more money in pushing snake oil on the American people, whom are not a very intelligent people, clearly, and we can tell that because they trust alternative medicine and organic food over actual evidence-based medicine. Therefore, if doctors were only in it for the money, they should take what they can save, and which is probably quite a bit. They don't live paycheck to paycheck. With natural news, they should go into competition with, or at least Dr. McCullough or whatever that guy's page was. Was he even a doctor? Not sure. Again, there's far more money to be made in being a quack who scams the American people with snake oil than there ever will be in actually doing evidence-based medicine. No one ever went broke betting against the intelligence of the American people, as clearly there's a dumbass born every few minutes in this land of the stupid. It's quite common to hear people say that they don't trust vaccines, because big pharma only cares about profits or other appeals to fear of greed. Never mind that vaccines are just about 3% of U.S. pharmaceutical sales and are relatively unimportant to drug companies. Let's see where this logic takes us. If making billions of dollars on a type of products is ground for suspicion, why only focus on vaccines? Americans ought to spend 28 billion a year on organic food and 3.34 billion a year on alternative medicine. By contrast, the vaccine market is less than 13 billion. My point here is not to attack profit. No business in the world would exist without it, but simply show how absurd the argument is that because drug companies are driven by the profit motive, quote, greed, therefore you can't believe anything they say about their products, e.g., vaccines. Money and profits don't magically become better or worse when corporations are selling unproven snake oil instead of tested medicine. You must look at the scientific evidence to judge claims about products, not the price tag or the bottom lines of the companies who made it. Sometimes I hear people suggest that it's just the big in big pharma that's the problem. Money only corrupts when big corporations gets lots of profits concentrated in one place. Let's look at the annual sales of Monsanto, big evil GMO company, and Whole Foods, patron saint of all that is good and natural. Whole Foods net sales 11.7 billion, and then Monsanto's, which barely makes more, their sales were 13.5 billion. Well, seems like making money can't be such a bad thing after all. Again, the point is about profit and its implication on motives, trustworthiness, and the reliability of an industry. If the 12.8 billion from vaccine, 3% of all drug sales, is enough to corrupt and discredit the entire government and pharmaceutical industry and scientific establishment, what exactly does 62 billion in organics and alternative alternative medicine sales due to their credibility? The answer is nothing. Evidence, not fear mongering about greed, is the only thing that can settle scientific questions. And again, like those guys do not have the weight of robust studies on their hands. They don't have, you know, they have studies, maybe, but the sample size will be maybe like 50 people in that. I mean, look at what we see with a lot of these things, like these Reiki studies and all that other stuff. Despite the fact that these guys take in exorbitant salaries, they they don't do large scale population studies of like 1,000 or more people. They do like them on like a small body of like 30 or 40 to 50 people, which doesn't really tell you anything. Really, the quality of that evidence is not very high, even if they do studies on it. If somebody does go through all the effort of conducting research on it, usually they don't do it on a large enough population of people to really be confident in the results that we get at all in any of it. And in the end, it ends up being a bit of a joke. And like I said, I I mean, this is the primary argument. I think they they have been saying a lot of stuff about, allegedly, about vaccine safety and everything, but it's like you're getting your information from Facebook moms instead of peer-reviewed academic journals. Like, it's no wonder, you think you're, oh God. Do you even know how to get, access to, scientific journals and everything? I mean, I know that they're pay to access, but I mean, Z Library is your friend. Not Z Library, sorry. Sci-Hub is your friend in that department, and there's a whole, backlog of content, in it that shows that these guys have been wrong all along. Like, if you actually have peer-reviewed papers, you would know that the anti-vaxxers have been thoroughly discredited. But no, you only trust it's like this in-group bias for all the idiots in your Facebook support groups. Ugh. In either event, this is not a very intelligent country. I mean, I don't say, I guess, in insulting the American people's intelligence, it doesn't give me any pleasure whatsoever to call my fellow Americans a bunch of dumbasses. But in fairness, they are. Like, what? What do you want me to say? I mean, it's really sad to me, and I wish it wasn't the case, and I wish they were actually as smart as they think they are, but they aren't. I really wish that it were the case, that they were right, that they were actually as smart as they believe themselves to be. But we don't live in a country like that. I don't have that luxury, and I'm not doing this to insult the American people. Like I said, it gives me no pleasure to come out here, because and I know that it sounds dickish, but we I don't mean to be a dick. We live in a country of people who are not that smart. What do you want me to say about it?